What's up, HyperFast Nation? On this episode of the show, I've got an amazing guest who went from $0 as a new person in this country to multiple nine-figure levels of net worth. He's on his way to becoming a billionaire, coaches, speaks, and has helped thousands of people. He's done it primarily through real estate. Welcome to the show, JT Foxx. All right, welcome to the show, JT. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to bring you to our listeners and viewers, and I know you've got a great story to tell and a great service that you offer that we're gonna, I'm sure, get into. But before we jump into that, why don't you give folks a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are right now?
Well, I'm from Canada originally, and about over 10 years ago, I moved from Canada to the United States with $974 after seeing one of those late night infomercial. I had a speech impediment my whole life. People said I would never make it, and I headed over 10 years ago with nothing, and had went down to negative 34,000. Went to Chicago and trying to do real estate investing, and basically 30 days from having to move out, I did my first deal, made 74,000. My second deal made 147,000, and then I ended up doing 500 deals without using any of my own money. I had other people's money. And then I started a radio show. I got offered a radio show that I self-syndicated across the United States and Canada eventually. And then I started speaking all over the world and buying businesses, getting involved in everything. And so now have well over 50 companies and brands. We're in 54 countries. We have clients in 104. And, the pandemic forced to obviously change the business model a little bit. And continuously adapt. And I have a private equity now, which looking to turn into sort of the next Blackstone. So that is on my radar of things to do. So just an average guy trying to make ends meet.
Wow, what what a story, and you tell it with a lot of humility, and
I think as
wow.
you tell it so many times. After a while, it's just like I want a new story. Like I left out the part I made my first million at 24, my second million at 25, and my first 10 million at 28, and that was 9 zeros when I was in my 30s. So after a while, you tell your story so many times that you're always like more concerned about like what are other people doing, like what's the audience doing, and how do you get them unstuck? And then you meet people that are very successful, and because they're not on stage or they don't have the opportunity to be on a podcast like this, they're so excited about telling their story, right? Because they're like, I've never done it before. But after you tell you, I once asked Rod Stewart, I was like, how many times you send Maggie May? He goes, tens of thousands of times. And I'm like, well, how do you I said, how do you do it, mate? I said, how do you like do that? Singing the same thing over. He goes, lots of drugs, mate, lots of drugs. So I never forgot that. I don't do that, but after a while, maybe I'll make up a new like story. I was like, I'm in a cardboard box, living under a bridge against all odds. I put stuff on eBay. I don't know. So maybe I'll change up my story next time.
Well, maybe that's what motivates you to keep on, hitting the new heights, that your story isn't done and you're still writing it. What, when you look back now, what was harder, like getting the initial start and going from like 0 to 1 million, or going from 1 million to 10, or 10 to 100?
The hardest deal is your first deal, right?
Yeah,
or your first client. The second hardest is your first 100,000 in the bank. The third hardest is your first million. The easiest is your second million. I find it easier to make 10 million than it was my first deal. A lot of it has to do with mindset, confidence. Like everyone tells you you can't do it. And after a while, you just know your capabilities, right? It's like Michael Jordan, right? I've been watching The Last Dance. Like, that he's going to make that shot. You just have done that shot so many times. I'm going to take that shot. I'm going to make that shot. I've done that shot. So it becomes natural. I mean, I don't know how many podcast interviews you've done. You had a lot, but I don't think you had any butterflies before getting on because you've done it many times. And that's kind of the first level of success is confidence. Anything you do for the first time is nerve-wracking, whether it's your first business, your first deal, your first date, your first marriage. But after 5 deals, you're not nervous. After, jumping out of an airplane for 5 times, you're not nervous. After your fifth marriage, you're not nervous. Kind of know what to expect in the first four. So the more you do something, the more competent, the more confidence you're going to be. And once you're confident, that's when success comes. You will never become successful unless you're confident about your marketing, your branding, your skills, or whatever it is. And the reason you push yourself is to become successful, you have to be uncomfortable. And people often forget that, is they get to a zone of comfort when they leave the success. And it's really hard to go from comfort to like getting uncomfortable again. And that's why you have to keep finding the enemy, or you have to find the enemy within, or you have to keep challenging yourself. Because the worst thing that can happen for a fighter or for an entrepreneur or anyone is to start becoming too comfortable. You saw it with Anthony Joshua, he got knocked out. You saw with Conor McGregor losing his last fight as well. You lose that edge because, yeah, you're still training, you're still working out, but you're fighting against a guy who's broke, got no money, and knows that beating you is going to be the greatest thing that's going to happen in his life. So that guy's probably training 10 times harder because, McGregor's got a yacht. McGregor's got all the cars. Now, it'd be very interesting to see how he bounces back, and I think losing sucks. I mean, it really does. Like winning goes away after 5 minutes, but losing, it bothers you until you win again. Unless he has the mentality of, who cares? I just sold my liquor company for $100 million, so I don't really care.
I think most people have loss aversion, right? And they've studied this in investing, and I think it would apply in those same situations. Like the fear of loss, the feeling of it, it's just so much greater than the opposite, in magnitude for many, many people. What do you think is key though for guys who are at the top? We got listeners on this show that have just started out. We got others who are big time real estate agents, investors. So let's say they're winning at a level, making multiple six figures, maybe even low seven figures. How do they stay uncomfortable so that they can keep growing?
Here's the thing. Let's say you're an agent that makes 7 figures, and that's actually very low in the scheme of things, but let's call it 7 figures. Like, you don't build wealth being an agent. I mean, it's called it what it is. Like, you're the hardest working person, and people don't respect you because nobody respects the middleman, right? I mean, how many times are clients like, oh my God, we do an open house or the flyers or they start yelling at you because some asshole puts an offer on your house, a lowball, which you had nothing to do with it. You're just, by law, you have to report. Wealth equals control. You know the market. Like if agents were getting paid $1,000 a week and they were afraid and $1,000 a week and commission, I would get it. But it's 100% commission. It's like do or die. So you already have that mentality. Why in the world wouldn't you be a real estate investor? Like I'm always like less than 3% of agents do that. Like, the market.
Is the number the number's that low? 3% or less? Wow.
That's what I'm told. I mean, all numbers are made up, but yeah, it's really low. So, yeah, you can better yourself, but I think with the work ethic they have, because I believe, and I said this before, I think real estate agents, some of them, not all of them, but the top performers are the hardest working people on. They're always on, they're always putting offers, they're always doing that. But I don't know, man, it's just, and by the way, the problem, you die, your business dies, right? You're not building wealth, right? You're like working your way to millions, and you're taxed at a huge earned income. So like, rather than making your clients wealthy, make yourself wealthy. That's just my thing. But the problem is that once you get to a point where you're making 7 figures or mid 6 figures or even 250, that's a lot of money. It's hard for people to stop because in the mind, they're like, well, I'm already doing this. So it's kind of people who say one day I'll do it, but then they end up performing at what they're doing and it's too hard to let it go. And they're not willing to take 2 steps back to take 10 forward. And that's the point. You may make less for the next couple of years. So instead of $500,000, you make 250, you make 200. But then one day you'll make $2 million, a year, or in deals, or build wealth. So that's a decision because they already have the work ethic. It's almost the same. I have over 50 companies and brands now, but what the agents do, what the investors do, I don't see that much difference. It all comes down to risk. Right. And
with a guy like you running multiple companies, I'm sure just because you start a new venture, that doesn't mean the other ones decrease. Maybe they don't grow as much. Maybe they grow more even, but why can't the agent or why do you think agents don't go out there and be like, all right, I'm going to systemize this business that makes
All them.
400 or 500, and then I'm going to like build up the investment part at the same time.
Well, yeah, because here's the problem. The investor wants you to be on this all the time, especially if they're giving millions of dollars. And if you're selling multi-million-dollar homes and you say, let me pass you to my team, right? People don't like that, right? They want a deal. So the problem is that the agent is a very agent-driven business. Yes, you can have a team member, but people are expecting to you. And if you're good at what you do, which I imagine a lot of people are here, it gets overwhelming and busy. I mean, you got 10, 20 listings at the same time. Then you got to get new deals to fill the pipeline. Then you're dealing with like you're dealing with personalities. It's not like cut and dry. So it's really hard to do both, because if they did, they would, right? And so I think you kind of go with, okay, I can do an investment. I have the risk and it takes a longer time, or I can just take the money up front, or like take the money now. So it's really hard for people, most people. And then you add on top of that, okay, you're not single, you got a family, you got kids. So you're already working your ass off. And then you're adding another investing part. That's a lot of work as well. So it depends the choices that people make as well, but it's very hard. That's why so many, people don't do both, because it's very, very hard. And the problem is that when you bring a deal and you want to partner with somebody, you know what they're going to say to you? Well, just get the commission, because that's how they view you. Just like in real estate, the idea of wholesaling. Let me take a deal and wholesale to someone, make $34,000, let's say 10,000, 5,000. Once you're a wholesaler, always a wholesaler. Because then if you go back to that same person that want to partner with you, their psychological thing is, well, no, you're a wholesaler.
Oh, you just got to control the deal and not give them an option. Like if you've got it, under control, and if it's good enough, right? If it's good enough, you'll find the partner, you'll find the money. So I think it all boils down to like how good you are at finding the deals. Like, wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, I mean, you're agent, you're around properties and you talk to agents all day long. I mean, a lot of the great deals I have is from agents, right? So and then if you're an agent and you already know everybody, when the deals come to you first?
How was it starting out? Let's dive into that a little bit. Like
Living on an office couch, eating ramen noodles. I was a lowball king. I was the guy that the agents hated, where I'd put like 1,000 offers a week at lowball in high net worth areas, which was stupid because I didn't know the way. Looking back, that was not the right strategy. And I caused a lot of aggravation to the agents who would then have to submit this lowball offer because there's no motivation, right?
How'd you get that first deal as a guy from out of the country with not much money in your pocket? Like how'd you find the deal and convince people to work with you?
I sent out a mailer and someone responded back and they were in foreclosure. And that was my first deal. Funny enough, I sent 10 letters and I got one call. And that was the crazy thing. Like that's like 10. I mean, the odds of that happening is like, I was very lucky.
That's a good percentage, good ratio.
Well, I think that was more luck than anything, because I was like, well, I don't want to spend too much money, which was naive. And then once that worked, we just started spending more and more money on marketing because we were getting a great response. I mean, the highest response I ever got on a campaign was like 52%, which is insane when the average direct mail is 1% to 3%. But the marketing was so different. I remember because I would ask the clients, like, tell me all the foreclosure letters you get. And I take all their marketing and I put them on the floor, like literally spread them on the floor. And then I would put mine and I said, does mine stand out? And because what I did was like a letter that turned into a giant poster. And that was just really cool to see, you know what I mean? So.
What was the first deal you did? Was it a rehab, a flip?
No, a single family home that I just flipped to somebody else and just put on the contract and did what was back in the day, double closing, which you can't do anymore because of title seasonings and things like that, where you would take money from like you're two closing at the same time. So you have closing in one room, the seller is in the C room. You basically take the money from the second to close the first. Now you can't do that because there was a lot of mortgage fraud that happened because of that. So that's why I've said when people say, if you had to do it again, would you do it the exact same way? And the answer is no. I mean, I use certain things like work ethic and a lot of the core fundamentals, but you can't do it that way. I actually think it's 1,000 times easier to make money today. It's more competitive, but it's a lot easier. If you got the drive, the work ethic, the persistence, the attitude, if you're coachable, if you're loyal, you can dominate because everything's on social media now. right? Everything is online. Like back in the day, like, you just had to go old school. Like you had to go knock on doors, or even filling events. I mean, if you're in the event industry now, you could just do social media campaign. Before, you had to advertise on radio and newspaper, which was so much more expensive. So the game has changed. It's getting easier and easier. But we've become a generation where people just sit on their ass and expect that something is going to be given to them. Like, I'm going to be an agent, I'm going to get listings. Like, just taking, for example, agents. Like some of the agents there, they were in the office, right? Taking floor leads, which are not the best leads, right? They are like, hey, can I help? They're sitting on open houses from other people to get clients, right? But some people just expect, because they're agents, people are going to come to them as well. And so there are people listening to, they know what it takes to succeed. They know the pain, they know the suffering. So, and so they really work their ass off. Work ethic eliminates fear. But they will never beat you until you quit. And too many people quit too soon. I mean, take a look at the numbers. I mean, 10% of the agents bring 90% of the business, right? And the average agent makes like less than $20,000 a year. That's because there's a lot of part-timers. They have a license, and they're like, oh, because the barrier to entry is so low to be an agent. You take a test and you pay your fee and you hang up your brokerage license. But those that are succeed, that watch it, they got the fire, right? They got the fire, and they have what it takes. They have the fire in the belly. And that's something you can't put inside and then you can't put out. You either got it.
Hey, hold that thought. Do you want to get 100 tips for free from my best-selling real estate book, The Hyperlocal, HyperFast Real Estate Agent? If you do, go to hyperfasttips.com and you can download 100 of my best tips today. Again, that's hyperfasttips.com. You can download 100 tips on how to grow your business, get more clients, deliver more value to more people. Go to hyperfasttips.com. What would you do differently in terms of scaling? So how did you scale your business when you started? And if you were doing it over again, what would you do differently in the scaling part of it?
I mean, listen, I got a coach from day one. A lot of people try to do it themselves. You're only as good as your coach. I've recorded every single one of my coaching sessions. Everything I'm telling you here is actually recorded. I've spent over 3 million in coaching. They can go to Millionaire Flicks above, and you can actually listen. My first coaching session was Broken No Money to the one I did a few days ago. Everything I've ever done, I've recorded. Every mistake. Now people say, well, why would I listen to your coaching session? Because I make the same mistakes. Fear, procrastination, time management, excuses, hiring, firing, scaling. So would I do anything differently? I probably got more coaches, right? Not just one. I would have got a lot more, because to me, tell me what to do, right? If I tell you do this, and you do that, then it's going to work. Too many people have this notion as well. Like, it's like golf, right? You want to be a professional golfer, and your notion is, I'm going to read every book there is about it. I'm going to watch every YouTube videos, and then I'm going to go to the practice range. And when I win a tournament, then I'll get, with the earnings, I'll then get a coach. But you're never going to win. So it's insane for you to think. See, the difference between 6 figures scaling and 7, 8, 9, 10 figures, 5 and 6 figures, how much does it cost? Anybody can make 6 figures by working their ass off. Anybody, right? Anybody. I don't care who you are, right?
Agreed.
But 7, 8, 9, how much is it going to make me? So when you hire somebody, how much are they going to make me? When you get a coaching, how much are they going to make me? When I invest in this marketing, how much are they going to make me? Rather than a scarcity model of, I'm going to wait for it to happen, or when I get it, then I'm going to do it. And that's based on fear. And fear is a choice. False evidence appearing real. People have a fear of losing money. They have a fear of making mistakes. So they try to do it all themselves. And that's why they scale. And they say, when I make money, then I'll be able to delegate. But you never make enough money to delegate. So you're stuck in a rat race.
Why do you think people, especially agents, get stuck in that 6 figure and don't really try to push to go to the 7, 8 or do it?
They're not willing to spend their way to it. That's, unfortunately, when you get that level, is marketing, right? And then having a team. And I'm not talking about a team of agents, maybe just taking a look at what are the tools do I need to make the 7 figures? Most people don't look at that, right? I think also too, I think a lot of people in the agent industry, sometimes they'll look at within their industry. I look at outside my industry, because something as common as dirt in one industry can have the effect of an atom bomb in another industry. So I take a look at people, like, for example, I've studied Starbucks, I've studied Disney, I've studied Ritz-Carlton. I've studied Apple. I've studied Google. I've studied Amazon. And we say, why that? Because the way they're customer obsessed, or the way they come up with things, or the experience, or or even Disney, right? You're in the experience business, right? The wow factor. I have a client that basically, interestingly enough, like every time he closes, he gives his clients a big gift, something to remember them. And most people don't do that, right? So he gets remember. They don't. Someone will fill their groceries, which is okay, but after they're done eating, you're done. He gives something that they can use and see every single day, because out of sight, out of mind. It's not what you say, it's how you make your clients feel. So what are you doing that other agents are not doing? That's a fundamental difference. Most people do the same thing and expect a different result, and that's insanity.
Yeah, or they do the same thing and do it better, and that'll get you incrementally more dollars, but not exponential more dollars. Right. Who have been the biggest coaches and mentors that you've had along the way that you can share with us?
Well, one is George Ross, obviously Celebrity Apprentice judge. He's 93 years old, still in my life, been with me for 10 years. Another one, Hugh Hilton, which needs his own introduction. It's a big name in the real estate world. Other one is I've got a named Tycoon X. I don't give his name out because he doesn't want to be known like in that capacity. And interestingly enough, he has a huge network, probably the most intimidating guy that I've ever heard. And the way he talks was actually, people get to listen. If they go to MrTycoonX.com, MrTycoonX.com, and you hear how he talks, it's like, you think I'm intimidating? That guy is like the most intimidating person. And then I have Mike Slade, who was best friends with Steve Jobs, is best friends with Gates right now, worked at Apple, worked at Microsoft, worked at Next Computer. I love asking him questions about how Jobs thinks and Gates thinks. And I remember when it was the beginning of the pandemic in April, right? Everybody's freaking out, market's at 18,000. And I said to him, what would Steve Jobs and Bill Gates do right now? He said they would double down. And I didn't do that. I didn't double down. I won down. And if I had doubled down, I probably would have made 100 times more money than I did. I've made a lot of money, but I played it too safe. And that's why Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and their legacy is who they are, where they are, because I was like, there was so much uncertainty. If you would have told me at the beginning of the pandemic, the real estate market's going to be the hottest ever been, stocks are going to blow up, but we're still wearing masks and we're still not open, that people would spend on NFTs, like, that crypto would be where it's at today, you would have said, no way. Like the market is right now is everybody's at the craft table, and whatever you throw dice, everybody's winning. Nobody's losing. But here's the problem. In the end, the house always wins. So there's a lot of people like money, like me, we're investing, but in the back of our mind, we're like very conservative because it just doesn't make sense. The economics of everything doesn't make sense. So a lot of agents right now, the market's not going to be hot. What's your plan B?
What do you think is going to be the first leg to fall?
Probably the stock market. Yeah. Real estate takes about a year before it comes around, right? Because of delays and foreclosures and everything. I think there's going to be a boom. People want to get out. People want to travel. People want to spend money, right? So I think there's going to be a boom. I don't think we're going to see a recession or some downturn anytime soon, but 18 months or less, or maybe at the end of the quarter, think about it, right? People spend all their money in the summer. They went out, right? They're realizing, okay, we're back to normal. The revenues are not as high as their valuation, and you might see some profit taken. Also, too, with taxes potentially going up, you might see a fourth quarter that might be a little bumpy because, hey, take my money now, my taxes, right? So there's a lot of implications that could be held, and it's all going to depend how it plays out. But again, I'm purely speculating. Nobody knows. Anybody's going to sit here and tell you what's going to happen. It's not. But
yeah, I agree with you on that. It's fairly speculative to predict. What about all the stimulus money and just money printing that we've done and injected into the economy? How do you think that's going to play out long term?
The U.S. government is still very powerful. I think the biggest threat to the U.S. economy is China. And so obviously by 2026, if China becomes a bigger superpower than America in terms of production, GDP, and currency, will I think that the world will back their money to the China, rather than the US dollars? I don't know. At some point, someone's going to try to regulate cryptocurrency. You kind of have to. because obviously governments are not going to let that unregulated. So I think there's been bigger fish to fry to that as well. Will it come back down because of that? Again, nobody knows. So that's why it's very important in business that you also hedge bets, right? You never go all in. You got to hedge bets, right? And so sometimes that bet's going to go up, but I have a downside just in case. So it's a crazy thought process when it comes down to that.
What are you doing right now? Like, where are you investing? How are you growing? And then what are you doing to mitigate the risk that you think might be out
I
there?
mean, I have money in everything. Like when you have as many companies as I do, I pretty much have money in everything. So I'm very well diversified, doing tons of real estate. I'm involved in crypto. I'm involved in all kinds of apps and technology plays, and like you name it. Like it's so crazy when I take a look at my portfolio of things. And kind of at this point, everything is making money. And then something big is going to pop, and then I'll triple down on that. It's kind of how really I take a look at it as well. I invest a lot in movies, first money in, first money out. So there's such a backlog right now in movies. Like I just invested in Bruce Willis's movie. I invested in De Niro's movie. I invested in Jared Butler's movie. But it's not the whole movie. Like I'm not a guy who's going to wait till the end. I'm a guy, I'm coming in, I'm your first money. And I make a lot of money doing that as well. I also am lending money, and if they can't pay me, I take over the company, but at an extremely high interest rates. Like I think we have a deal that we're about to finalize in the cannabis space, 10% a month.
Wow.
Right? Like that's like 2 million. So think about $2 million loan, 10% a month, right? I mean, that's $200,000 paid every month. And by the way, the margins are there. And it's cross-collateralized by all their assets, which I know that if it doesn't work, I don't get paid back, I'm covered. But they need it because of the industry they're in, they can't get loans, right? And they really want to make a play, and they get that dispensary they want to buy. It's such a great deal. But if it doesn't work out, I take over the other 2 dispensaries, and I take over the third one, so I own 3 dispensaries.
Yeah, and right? It looks like too that regulation, legalization, all of that is heading in a direction that would only help guys like you.
Yeah. On one hand, yes. But on the other hand, you have Biden, who basically the administration who got rid of people that smoke marijuana. So that's kind of contrary to like, we're not going to criminalize it. But then people that are on the White House staff, if you did it, then they're just kicking you out. So mixed messages. Who knows what people think these days? People blow with the wind.
Yeah, no, that is odd because you saw that on the one hand. Then on the other hand, his own party is working on a bill in Congress that would be complete federal legalization right now. So, what would your message be to the person out there who's, maybe at the 6 or 7 figure level? What should they be doing right now to grow and expand?
Well, you got to figure out how much money you want to make, right? So let's say, hypothetically, you drive from point A to point B. And let's say you have a Tesla right now, right? And you say, okay, this Tesla will get me 350 miles, right? But I want to get to 1,000 miles, and there's no charging station. Doesn't matter how much you like the Tesla, how fast the Tesla is. If it doesn't get you to 1,000, you need to say, okay, maybe I need a BMW iW. Maybe I need power and gas, okay? Or maybe this is not the right opportunity yet until they have charging stations as well. So you always start with the end result, and you figure out, in doing what I'm doing, is that going to get me there? And if it's not, then you need to find something else or do something else. But you need to have that wishful thinking, well, I'm going to do that, and then so you need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you plan on failing.
Hey, hold that thought for a minute. Do you want to take your real estate business to the next level? If you do, there's no reason to go it alone. Learn from people who've been where you want to go. Carrie and I have sold billions of dollars in real estate. We've netted over 7 figures for 7 years in a row now, and we want to see if you would be a good fit to work for us. We don't work with a lot of people, but we want to give you a chance to get on a free strategy call to see if we can help you get your business to the next level. Go to hyperfastcoach.com and apply for your discovery session today. Again, that's hyperfastcoach.com.
And how do you offer services or help people that are
well, I mean,
wanting to get there?
Like, I'm the highest paid business coach in the world. I'm the world's #1 wealth and business coach on the planet. And probably the people here, I don't know if they can afford me or not, but I would rather just give it for free. If you go to my Instagram, there's a link, and once a week I take a group of people one-on-one and I go through them and I say, what do you do and how can I help you? And so I found a lot of great businesses. I found a lot of great partnership like that. And that's one thing I did during the pandemic that I'm happy I did, because I reconnected with people that, like, normally you just connect with people that can afford you, right? That's just a natural progression. So I do that once a week. I did it like every day for like 60.
What do you go live on Instagram, or how does that work? How do you do
I know,
that?
but no, they just like, this is live. It's like a live Zoom. I do Zoom.
Okay.
I do, Instagram, we do live. So if people want it, they can add me and they can go to my Instagram. There's a link there. It's absolutely free. I'm not selling you my one-on-one there. It just basically get you the knowledge, get to know you as well. And also too, when I was on stages before the pandemic, I would sell my program up to $5,000 in 90 minutes, right? And during the pandemic, I decided to offer all 58 of my courses, everything I do, every coaching I ever had, for $20. So if they go to Millionaire Flicks for $20, and then I also have weekly group coaching, and for that is only $97. So like, to me, the money is now made on the deals, right? I'm just really good at coaching. I mean, I could look at someone and tell if they're going to succeed or not. I could tell them what their problem is. I could tell if they're left brain, right brain, if they procrastinate, if they're not focused. I could tell if they have excuses. And there's a course on Millionaire Flicks about how to read body language. I'm 8 moves ahead. I literally think 8 moves ahead at all the time. I always do the end result. I don't look at where it is in front of me. I look at where it's going to be. Right? Same thing when Wayne Gretzky, it's not where the puck is, where the puck is going to be. So I'm really looking where the puck is going to be, because if it's right there, I'm already too late.
Did you play hockey growing up in Canada?
No, it was the only game. My parents didn't want to wake up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. to get my skates and leagues and stuff like that. So we stuck to soccer and baseball. So
yeah, the rink time is tough in that sport. You got to get up early.
Well, there's really early commitments, and I don't know why, to be honest with you. I think it's just because it was expensive sports and we didn't have much money. Hockey equipment can be very expensive, right? Or they didn't like the smell of the hockey bags or the Lucky Ones. I don't know, but yeah, it's very interesting. And I was like tall and lanky, so so it's interesting to see. But I was probably the only Canadian who did. And and I like going to hockey games growing up, but when I lived in Chicago, like, I stopped and then started going to Chicago Blackhawk games sometimes. And when we used to actually go places, and the energy there was just like the Blackhawks, like, just, you could tell the energy. The big regret I have, though, I wish I lived in Chicago during the Bulls era, because I've been watching The Last Dance, and for me, I find it so inspiring and motivated. And seeing how Michael Jordan, and I've been studying him for a long time. I liked him a long time. The two people that I admire the most, that I look up to, is Tom Brady and Michael Jordan.
They're both competitors, like, in everything you do. I don't know if you saw over the summer, Jordan's a big fisherman, and his boat pulled in like almost a 500-pound marlin in some tournament, and he was upset because they came in second.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's just the thing too. Like same thing as an agent. You either get the listing or you don't. Someone is going to take your business. So like, you have to fight for everything, and you can't be complacent, because there's always someone behind you. Number one, that wants it more than you, but is willing to give the stupidest concessions. Like, I'll lower my commissions. I'll give you this. And so you're fighting against all kinds of idiots who are trying to take shortcuts.
Yeah, I think, if you study any of the great ones, like the people that are like the greatest of the great, they all just have this competitive desire that it really it doesn't matter where they are. They just can't turn it off. Most of them, I think it's there. It's like, it's part of who they are. Well, before we wrap up, I always like to do a HyperFast round, if you're ready for some rapid fire questions and answers.
Sure.
All right. What's your biggest piece of advice today to a new real estate investor?
Work ethic eliminates fear. If you outwork them, they can't beat you. So the more people you talk to, the more calls you make, the more follow-ups you make as well. Don't wait for it to come to them. Pick up the phone and call until your fingers hurt.
What would your biggest piece of advice to an experienced real estate investor be?
You're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And stop thinking short-term, start thinking long-term. Because if you do what you're doing 15, 20 years, you probably won't like it, because at the end of the day, you won't feel like you grow, it won't challenge you anymore. and don't get stuck into the agent rat race.
What is the toughest business challenge you've ever had, and how did you overcome it, or what lesson did you learn from it?
I mean, I obviously for my age was a big issue, and I think now I guess the business challenge is I'm very intimidating, I'm very BS, I'm straightforward to the point, and people get easily intimidated, and they know that if they go against me, they're probably losing the negotiation because I'm so good at it. I see what, like, I visually see, I read body language, I know what people are going to happen as well. So sometimes people either bring their best A game or they avoid it, which makes it a challenge as well. But I think the biggest challenge is myself at this point for me is to, like, how do I stay motivated? Because it's hard. You've been in one location. I used to be like in a different country, a different city every day. So for the last 15 months, I haven't gone anywhere. And so you're like, actually for the last 13 months, I haven't gone anywhere. So, and so it's, you're all zoomed out, there's that human element, that people, that energy, the enemy, the competition, the drive. So, I need to find that back.
If you had to start over right now and you couldn't take any of your money, you couldn't take any of your connections, all you had was what you've learned along the way, what would you do?
Real estate investing all over again. I did it the first time, I'll do it again. All it requires is persistence. I mean, I could be an agent and be really good at it. But I put the exact same efforts, and why make 500,000, $1 million when I can make $10 million?
All right. What would we find you doing when you're not investing in real estate, putting deals together, working? What would you be doing?
I mean, to me, I'm always on 24/7. And so the good thing is you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. Like, for example, right after this, I've got 2 calls, but they're not like, they're calls with strategic calls. So I'll be walking and talking at the same time, taking off my suit, go walk outside. And so I love kind of reading and watching things that are going to make me better. So if it makes me better, I will do it. And so now I'm gonna start doing a little bit more golf, which is interesting because my coach was like, because I live in a really big house, but I also live in a country club, but I didn't sign up for it because I just moved. And I'm like, I don't know, 15 grand, which is nothing in comparison, because we're like, people pay 100 grand, 150 grand. And I'm like, I don't know, like the idea of playing golf when we're in the middle, like a pandemic, it's slow. And my coach's like, what are you talking about? How many people are you going to be able to meet, JT? I'm like, I don't know. Excuses, right? So he calls me up like last week. He goes, did you do it yet? I'm like, I was going to wait. Weather is starting to get nice. He goes, I want you to go sign up today. So I'm like, fine. I go to the country club. I sign up. And guy comes by, and the guy introduces me. Hey, so-and-so is a member, new member, and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, what do you do? He goes, I own 36 McDonald's. Like, you see what I mean? Like the first guy, and then stupid, narrow-minded. You know what I mean? That's the type of people. So penny wise, dollar foolish. And I created my own excuses, right? You know what I mean? So we create our own bullshit to justify why we don't do things. If you haven't succeeded at first, try doing what your coach told you to do the first time.
It's often the case. Last question. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I'll probably definitely be a billionaire. I don't doubt that as well. I'm on my way there. And then I'll probably give it away to charity, and people say, what are you going to do next? I'll just make another one. So the thing is, when people say, what's your 5-year plan, 10-year plan? You know what I say? There's no such thing as a 5-year or 10-year plan. Could we have predicted a pandemic? I didn't even know that I was going to be on your show until I woke up this morning. Like, it was on my schedule. I had no idea. Right? So you don't know. So that's why I only say 1 year at a time, because you can more or less control 1 year. But I don't know what's going to happen. What's going to happen with the technology? What's going to happen with the world? Is there going to be another pandemic? I don't know. Like, what's going to be? Like, I don't know. Are we going to have flying cars? Is real estate the way it's done? It will be different. I don't know. All I know is that I control what's in front of me in the next year. And then as long as I put my head down and I keep pushing and I keep saying yes, opportunities will go out there. So believe it or not, I have no idea what I'm going to be in 10 years. Because if you ask me where I was now, here, right here, that I'd be at home 14 months, not go anywhere, right? Add a lot more companies, not be on a stage in front of 5,000, 10,000 people, I would be like, you're crazy. But that's what happened.
All right. Well, that's great advice. Thank you so much, JT. Before we sign off, if people want to connect with you or learn more about what you do, How should
I
they
think
do that?
Instagram account, like I said, if you want some free mentoring, click on the link there as well. I'll mentor you for free.
That's millionaireflix.com. I see that's the link.
Yeah, that's different. Millionaireflix.com
Okay.
is just where you get all my programs for $20. And if they want
Okay.
to do coach, yeah, it's just, it's $20. If you need a loan, we'll spot you.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you connect with JT. What an amazing time that was, and some really, really great content and inspiration, and just, story of a guy who went from 0 to multiple 9 figures. Thank you so much. Remember to hit that like button, share this with other people you think can benefit, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see more, click right here. And if you want 100 real estate tips from my best-selling book, click right here to download them instantly. And if you're new to this channel, click below to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out. And leave some comments about what you think on the videos.